Hey guys, Alex from 7th Hour Films back again with My Hero Academia. Last time around, we had the wrong way to put out a fire, where basically we got the whole backstory with what happened with Toya Todoroki and how he basically just lost his mind because Endeavor drilled into his head from birth that he needed to get powerful and surpass All Might, and then when they realized, no, that's not going to happen, it was kind of too late, and Toya just sort of went off the deep end until he burned and it died, but eventually became Dabi. So yeah. And it was a whole thing, and at the end, Hawks and Best Genius were talking with Endeavor and the family, and they were like, all right, we need to coordinate on how we're going to make our move, and Hawks brought up One for All, and why does Shigaraki want that? And Endeavor knew that it has something to do with Deku. So yeah. And at the end, we cut to All Might, who could sense that Midoriya was talking with all the vestiges of One for All. So yeah, that was pretty much that. Now before we get into this, one quick note. I see that the title of this episode is called Izuku Midoriya and Tomura Shigaraki. Now, I know I've been a complaining boy this season, but I just want to make this little nitpick. This is just a minor thing that doesn't matter at all, but it's a minor nitpick that this episode is called Izuku Midoriya and Tomura Shigaraki when we've already had an episode called Midoriya and Shigaraki. Come on, you can make a better title than that. Oh well. It ultimately doesn't matter. I just thought I'd bring that up because I remember that. Anywho, like always, the reaction is down in the description and the pinned comment for your viewing pleasure, so let's go ahead and jump right into this episode of My Hero Academia. Here we go. Okay. That was a lot. That was a lot of shit that just happened. That was a lot. A lot of people know about One for All now. Oof. Of course he would do that. Of course. Especially if innocent civilians are at UA, like his mother. He would leave. He would leave so that Shigaraki won't attack. Doesn't mean I like it. It's not like I like this or anything. That was a lot. Okay, so my theory that every user of One for All is an idiot kind of diminished a bit by this episode. I will say at the very least, Number 5, that guy's he's good. He's good, he's fun. I mean, I'm sure back in the day, Shimura used to be fun. She started the whole smiling philosophy. It's just, she's kind of sad right now. And to her credit, she has every right to be. Her grandson, who was abused by his father, her son, whom she abandoned, is now one of the biggest villains in the world. And she just asked a 16-year-old to murder him. So, in all credit, yeah, of course she's gonna be sad about this. That was a lot. Jeez, that was like a lot of stuff there. Okay, so number 4. The 4th user of One for All. He kind of didn't do much as a hero. Weird. So he died of old age, basically. He died of old age, but obviously he had to have passed One for All on to somebody else before he died. I would imagine just once he got too decrepit, he would have passed the power on, even though he was only 40. So that's interesting. Because he had to have passed the power on. Because this isn't like the Founding Titan. That shit just doesn't reappear somewhere else, you know? So one for all, if it remains within a person long enough, it will destroy their body. However, this was not the case with All Might. The only reason his body got so bad was because he fought All for One, you know? Is because of his original fight with All for One that took such a toll on his body, you know? And then, yeah, so he had, this is the craziest thing, I think. He had the power for 40 years. That's a long goddamn time. So he's, how old would he be then? I guess that puts him in his 50s, though. If he had it for 40 years, let's say he got it, which I think is pretty much confirmed, he got it around the same time that Deku got it, you know, around the same age. So if he was 14, 15 when he got One for All, he had it for 40 years, that brings you up to age 55. You know, adjust for how much time has passed, I'd say 57, 56-ish is probably how old he is. Man. Now, how old was Gran Torino? How old is Gran Torino? Is he like in his 80s by now, I guess? Shit, the man could be 90 years old, I guess. Because, yeah, how old was Shimura? If they were around the same age. I don't know. Which I guess this brings up the question, when did any of them get it? Because it seems that these last two, All Might and Deku, got One for All at such a young age. So it makes me think, was that the case with all the previous ones, you know? Like, let's just start from the next one back. Let's start with Shimura. How old was she when she gained the quirk, you know? Because she also had that, there was a moment where Gran Torino talked about that. It was shortly after Shimura got the power that she had that dream and found, you know, talked to the original user, you know? But the way they framed that, it looks like she was already an adult by the time she had that quirk, you know? And I guess it could have been that she was already an adult. She may not have had it for too long. We also have to think about, you know, how long ago was the quirk created? You know, at max 200 years, maybe less. Most likely less than that. So yeah, they probably all only had it, I'm going to say 10 years. But number 4 had it the longest after All Might, specifically. He was 40 when he ended up dying. I would imagine he probably had it for 20 years. Now, if he got it at a young age, he may have had it for 35 years, you know? I would say at max 35 years. But with this whole thing of the body degrades, I don't know, would he have lasted that long? I don't know. I need like a full breakdown of how long they all had the quirk, you know, and at what age they got it, you know? And they also said that a lot of them died in battle. I mean, you almost have to wonder what the circumstances were for some of them. Like, you know, we've seen 2 calm transfers, you know? We know that Shimura passed it to All Might pretty much the same way that we saw All Might pass it to Deku. And things were fine. But you almost have to wonder, did someone transfer it just before they ended up dying, you know? It's possible. You know, it's such an interesting thing. It's like, man, I'm so curious. Like, I want to know, like, power levels of all of them, you know? Like, I want to, like, quantify it into a number. If only because they talk about number 4, you know, spent a lot of time improving the quirk. This dude is tall, this dude is jacked. Then, after him is number 5, who's also pretty big. You know, this sort of Hellboy looking dude. Then I think the next guy after him is the guy who kind of looks like Best Jeanist, just red. You know, he's got that sort of red thing, but he looks pretty small. But then you pass it to Nana Shimura, who is like, see, that's the thing. If she was not dead and also sad, like, man, she's fucking hot. Like, she is like exactly my type, okay? She's exactly my anime waifu type, alright? Oh my god. But she is tall, she is jacked, she is gorgeous. So it's like, it just seems to be an interesting trend. So it makes you think, like, okay, how strong was she? And then you think about All Might and how powerful All Might is and how powerful he must have made the quirk, because it was just him in that quirk. It was just him in the stockpiling and nothing else, you know? But it does make you question, it's like, so how strong was she? How strong were all of they? I don't know. I like the analogy they use, though, that if it's more like a cup, and if your cup already has something in it, and then you put in One for All, it'll overflow, and it'll possibly potentially break the glass itself, being the body. So that's the problem, is that because all of them had a quirk, none of them could hold it forever, you know? Whereas, and again, this is all just based on the fact that Nana Shimura happened to pass it to a quirkless boy, you know? Because she took the chance on him, you know? She took a chance on him and gave it to a boy with no quirk. That's why All Might is so great, you know? And then, it was the same thing that All Might looked at Deku, a boy without a quirk, and thought, you know what? I'm going to give this to you. But now the problem is, how do you pass it on to somebody else? Because, the number of people without a quirk, that is slowly but surely diminishing. You know, 80% of the population has a quirk, you know? It's getting more and more rare to see somebody without a quirk. And if they have any sort of a quirk, because that's the other thing too, it's like, okay, Black Whip I understand, which I did love that moment where he tried to tap the fourth user and he just kept dodging. I thought that was a funny moment. Again, I love the idea that they're all kind of goofy in their own way. Like, if they weren't dealing with such serious shit right now, you know, they'd all be having a good time. They'd be like the best of buddies, you know? So, but yeah, it's like, you look at Black Whip and it makes sense, but then you look at something like Danger Sense and it's like, okay, his quirk was Danger Sense. He senses danger. That's it. Or Shimura, she has Float. That's it, you know? Like, we're not talking about, like, if the power was passed to Todoroki. Like, that's the thing, is that even, like, let's say if One for All was passed to, like, Mei, you know? Whose whole quirk, may I remind you, is simply zooming in with her eyes. That's all her quirk is. But even that would be enough that if she had the power for too long, it would break her, basically. So that's interesting. And it's only because All Might and Deku do not have quirks that they can handle One for All for a long time, basically. So that was interesting. And then we have the question, can you kill Tomura Shigaraki? Which I will say, the whole thing of, you know, it's like, oh, we thought that Toshinori defeated, you know, ended All for One once and for all, you know? But he was clever and he has this whole thing now, and it's like, this kind of reminds me of the end of The Rise of Skywalker when you hear Anakin and he's like, bring balance to the Force, just as I did. And it's like, did you? did you? You know? And it's like, I don't really, like, I don't think that those movies, like, ruin the original trilogy or anything, or Vader's sacrifice or anything, but it does make you question, like, did you? Did you bring balance to the Force? Because somehow Palpatine returned, you know? Which is exactly the same as this, where it's like, we thought that, everybody thought that Toshinori twice defeated All for One. But no, he has this whole plan to possess Tomura Shigaraki and completely ruin all the character buildup that the author had done for him. So, good job. So yeah, but the question is, can you kill Tomura Shigaraki? And it's interesting that they say, it's like, you know, when we were there, you know, we felt your emotions. You felt that he wanted to be saved. None of them ever felt that, though, which is the interesting thing. Which, I mean, I kind of like, on one hand, that it's like, because it's a one thing of like, man, why is Deku so goddamn special, other than just he's the protagonist of the show, you know? Because All Might, like, sometimes I kind of feel like we forget how amazing All Might was. Like, no, All Might was the one who won. He beat All for One first, you know? But then it's like, all right, but now we have to move on to Deku, and that's fine. But yeah, it's like, it's an interesting thing that Deku does see what even the rest of them did not see, you know? They did not see Tenko Shimura wanting to be saved, but Midoriya did. And yeah, that was a test, and you passed. Good job. That was a test. And he did, I'm pretty sure he did say, like, look, which... Okay, I understand why, you know, and this was obviously in the sub as well, the whole muffled speech. Crunchyroll, put in subtitles, for God's sake. I swear I missed half of what he was talking about. Oh my god. Because the subtitles in Japanese were there. But for some reason, like, do I just not have that on here? Is that it? No, they literally don't offer any subtitles whatsoever for the English dub. Crunchyroll, do this. Do this. Do it, you know? Give me subtitles, Crunchyroll. I need them. And also, whatever thing at the end here, like, it must have been, like, some days later or something. Yeah, I didn't see that. I didn't see what that said because Crunchyroll didn't have subtitles for me, so thank you. But yeah. But I'm pretty sure he said that if it comes to it, he will kill Shigaraki in order to save, you know, lives. But he will try to save him. He will try to save Tenko. And yeah, he's a fucking good boy. And you know, and I like even in that moment, that the first, like, I guess the first one to cry about this is the vague vestige of All Might, you know? He's the only one who's not fully in there because specifically because he's still alive, you know? But yeah. But that's the thing, is that I like that he looks at that and is like, yeah, that's, and then Shimura starts crying too. It's like, even though she made that mistake of abandoning her child, which has completely, you know, led to Shigaraki, I like how she says, I was still blessed with incredible students, you know? He's a good boy. He's a good boy. I do like, though, too, when she says, Gran Torino is still alive. When you wake up, tell him I said hi. I was just sitting there like, yeah, that's gonna freak him the fuck out. It's like, oh yeah, I talked to your dead best friend, which, by the way, she's been dead for 40 years, you know? Because that's about how long All Might had the quirk. She's been dead for 40 years, jeez. How old are they? Like, I've always had this headcanon that Shimura, Gran Torino, Recovery Girl, and Nezu all went to UA together as kids. It just makes me question, it's like, man, that would have been a long-ass time ago. That also begs the question, it's like, if that's true, how old would Nezu be? Jesus. We don't know. We don't even know what animal he is anyway, so... Anyway, so yeah. So that was something, and then... Hawks... So now Hawks, Best Jeanist, and presumably Endeavor, they all know about One for All, which is crazy. And we had the press conference, which they handled that as best they could. It's like, look, yes, there were a lot of mistakes. And now the whole thing of like, oh, this is, you know, the villains did it, but it's the heroes' fault for not defeating them. I mean, I guess you could say the heroes went and picked a fight, but they tried to pick the fight before. Like, honestly, I think they did the best they could. And I understand why that woman was upset. You know, her mother was seriously injured by Makia. But at the same time, it's like, look, the heroes have done the best they could, you know? And they're going to keep doing that. And I like how they say, and I like that the press did try to give them the benefit of the doubt. It's like, well, Dabi lied about Hawks killing Best Jeanist, so therefore, you know, not everything he said was true, but yeah, Endeavor and Hawks both basically confessed to what they did. And now they're going to go out and atone. They're not going to be like that one samurai fuckhead who retired. They're going to go out. That is their atonement, is to make this right, to defeat these villains, you know? And then Deku confessed to all of his classmates. He confessed to One for All, you know? He confessed about that and said that he's going to leave so that they're not in harm's way. I do like, though, that little moment, because they don't show... I like they don't show Bakugo's reaction to that. Because you know he's going to be pissed. Bakugo's going to be pissed once he sees that. He's going to drag him back there and be like, you idiot! But I do like that moment with Uraraka where she reads that and is like, oh, you idiot. It's like, that's not... What the fuck have we been doing for 6 seasons? We're all in this together, bitch. You know, like, it's like, no, you cannot just go run away, you know? Even if it is to protect them, you cannot run away from them. They will always be by your side. Uraraka needs to go find him and slap that boy. Boy. But yeah, okay, so I know we've been talking about depressing stuff all season, and I've kind of not enjoyed it. I still don't like what they did with All for One. I'm just going to put that out there. There's never going to be a way to make that any better, you know? You built up Shigaraki, and you're taking that away from me. And you take away a very unique and interesting villain dynamic from me, you know? Something where I was like, oh my gosh, this is a really interesting thing. It's a new, unique thing that my hero is doing, and I really appreciate that. Nope, that's all gone. I absolutely still hate that, but everything else is getting a little better. There's hope, you know? There's some fucking hope. And it's weird to say that after 2 episodes of Hawks and Endeavor's sad lives. You know, Hawks and Endeavor's sad family lives. And now this whole thing with talking to the users of One for All. And just the sad... Oh, God. Why is it every time Shimura comes on screen, she has to be sad? God damn it, I'm trying to waifu her the fuck up, alright? It's like, look, all of this sadness does not help my Nana Shimura ex-male reader fanfictions, okay? Okay? Jeez. But I did enjoy this episode. I thought this episode was good. I mean, aside from the whole... I just couldn't understand what Deku was saying half the time. You know, there was also a part of me that was worried when it was like, when you could finally hear him a bit more, and it's like, oh, okay, good. And I was like, oh, okay, so the smoke is kind of going away. It's like, okay, well, don't go away completely. The boy doesn't have any clothes for some reason. Idiot. You don't take your clothes with you when you die. Well, I did. I even had my weighted clothes. I didn't even die in those. And what's with the other 2 users at the back? Well, you joined the conversation, asshats. What are you doing? I like the first guy. He does kind of call them out. It's like, you know, you guys are going to have to stop ignoring us and join in. It's like, who are those 2? They have suspiciously, like, similar outfits. Like, we got to learn about those 2. I think I guess those 2 are supposed to be number 2 and number 3. What happened to them? What's up with them? What? I don't know. We'll have to find out. We will have to find out. But yeah, and in all of this, I think the biggest question is, are we ever going to get back to Purple Girl? I know I just went off on this whole thing about how I'm trying to waifu Nana Shimmer and everything, but look, I have a lot of waifus. What's happening with Purple Girl? She's in the intro. I want to see more of her. So, I don't know. We will have to see. We will have to see. But that is basically it. With all that being said, I'm Alex from 7th Hour Films, and I will see you guys next time. Take care. Alright guys, thanks for watching this video. There's a bunch of links on screen if you want to go click around any of those. There's a playlist for all of my My Hero Academia reactions, as well as another video you can go click on if you want. There's also a subscribe button and a Patreon button on screen, as well as other links in the description if you want to go check out any of those. See you guys later.